What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, it has already begun. As former unified three belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, who was once widely considered top five, if not number two, definitely possibly number one, but he was definitely top five pound for pound best fighters in the world, in Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. is now 28 wins, one loss, no draws. 22 big wins by way of knockout, 33 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Errol Spence suffered the first loss and setback of his career as far as taking a loss in the sport of boxing, as July 29th, Las Vegas, Nevada, T-Mobile Arena, Errol the True Spence Jr., he took on now undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, now the reigning undisputed welterweight world champion, who is widely recognized as the number one best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Crawford has a record of now 40 wins, no loss, no draw, 31 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, they fought in a highly anticipated fight that was anticipated for the last 10 years. The biggest fight, the most competitive fight, possibly the most anticipated fight in 40 years that was on paper a 50-50 fight if there ever were one. And the fight turned out not to be that. The fight turned out to be a one-sided dominant performance on the part of Terrence Crawford dominating Errol Spence. Again, it's ironic because Errol Spence, ahead of this fight, stated that it was going to be a one-sided beatdown in his favor. And most people didn't believe that, thought it was going to be a competitive back-and-forth seesaw type of fight. And it turned out to be a one-dominant-sided performance on the part of Terrence Crawford, dropping Errol Spence in the second round, dropping him twice in the seventh round, and then stopping him in the ninth round and battering him in between that. With that said, now we have a possible rematch between the two, as Terrence Crawford is contractually obligated to fulfill a rematch between the two. Okay? Terrence Crawford now has to oblige Errol Spence. He's the A side. Errol Spence was the A side going in. Now Terrence Crawford is the A side going in. The possible rematch. Now, what's interesting is that there's reports that Errol Spence had to drain himself from 190 pounds down to 147, okay, which is 53 pounds that he would have to drain himself. Now, Errol Spence stated that he stayed in shape in between fights since suffering that horrific car accident October 2019, when he came back after he beat 14 months later, after suffering that horrific car accident, unifying the belt September 2019 against Showtime Sean Porter, that after he fought two-division world champion Puerto Rican superstar boxer Danny Swift Garcia, that he stayed in shape. He stayed focused. He stayed close to, not too far away from his fighting weight. But now there's reports surfacing that Errol Spence had to drain himself from 190 pounds to 147. If that holds to be true, well, Errol Spence has nobody to hold himself accountable for but himself. He has nobody to blame for that but himself, to allow himself to balloon up to 190 pounds. I'm hard-pressed to see that to be the case. I don't believe that Errol Spence allowed himself, as he was focused on this fight with Terrence Crawford, and he stated this is the only fight he wanted, although he was being offered a fight with the former unified welterweight world champion and Keith one-time Thurman, that his sole focus was Terrence Crawford and becoming undisputed, and he would allow himself to balloon up to 190 pounds. I'm hard-pressed to see that being the case. But Errol Spence did state in an interview where he stated that when he was with former strength and conditioning coach Blue Ray Fitness, he did all types of core exercises, sit-ups, and lower back exercises. But when he wasn't with Blue Ray Fitness, he didn't even do sit-ups. He didn't do core exercises. He didn't work on those things. So if Errol Spence took it for granted that he would be able to get up off the couch at 190 pounds and fight and beat Terrence Crawford, well, he has nobody to blame but himself. And the fans should not make this up as an excuse as to Errol Spence being weight drained, because he should not allow himself to go up to 190 pounds. With that said, after the fight, Errol Spence, he stated that he wanted the rematch to take place in December, and he wanted it to take place at junior middleweight, as he can no longer make 147 pounds and not do it comfortably. And now the World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Suleiman, board of 32 members, decided to make Errol Spence an immediate challenger for the junior middleweight WBC title, and they placed him as number 3 in their top 10 ranking systems, ahead of the likes of Jesus Ramos, who is 20 wins, no losses, no draws, and campaigning this division to become a world champion, ahead of Sebastian Fundora, who recently got knocked out. But what's the difference between Sebastian Fundora? He got knocked out by Brian Mendoza, who is the WBC interim champion with a record of 22 wins, 2 losses, no draws. But Sebastian Fundora was the WBC interim champion, and he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza, and Errol Spence leapfrogged him. But Errol Spence just got knocked out by Terrence Crawford and has never fought in this division. So how did he leapfrog Sebastian Fundora? And then he also leapfrogged Erickson the Hammer Lubin, who was also the WBC mandatory challenger, who lost and was knocked out by Sebastian Fundora. So Errol Spence has leapfrogged these fighters. He is now number 3 in a 154-pound junior middleweight title contention. He's never fought in this division, and he just got knocked out, and he got dominated. So we can't say, well, Sebastian Fundora got knocked out because Errol Spence just got knocked out. Well, we can't say Lubin got knocked out because Errol Spence just got knocked out. And Jesus Ramos didn't even lose, but the WBC dropped him in the rankings. And there's reports that Jesus Ramos is going to fight Erickson Lubin, and Sebastian Fundora is going to rematch Brian Mendoza. So Sebastian Fundora got knocked out by the interim champion, so he dropped to number 5. Lubin dropped to number 6, who lost to Sebastian Fundora, but just had a comeback victory. This is the politics within the sport of boxing. Sebastian Fundora, now you got Charles Conwell at number 1, which is understandable, right? You have Serhi Bahuchik at number 2. Then you have Errol Spence at number 3. How is that possible? I can understand that Errol Spence won the fight, and then he moving up to 154, and then you put him in the top 5, top 3. But how could he be at number 3 coming off a knockout loss ahead of Jesus Ramos, who didn't lose? How did he lose his position? Sebastian Fundora got knocked out by the now interim champion. He was the interim champion. These are the politics within the sport of boxing, because it's all about money. Errol Spence is a major draw. Now, I'm not opposed to Errol Spence getting these big fights, because I want to see him in the biggest fights, and I want to see him come back. But I don't understand how he get pushed to the top of the line, and he never fought in the division, and he's coming off of a knockout loss. Sebastian Fundora has 1 loss to Mendoza. Lubin has 2 losses, but one of those losses, both of them, one was to Jamel Charlo, the undisputed champion. The other one is Sebastian Fundora, who was the WBC interim champion. So I just don't understand how this process works. But nonetheless, Errol Spence is officially a junior middleweight. He's officially a challenger for junior middleweight title. Okay, and Errol Spence is now looking to get back in the business and back in that win column. Showtime President of Sports Steven Espinosa recently stated that he don't believe that Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford will rematch this year. He don't think it'll be till late next year, early next year at best. Right? So late next year, early next year at best. So Errol Spence not going to fight this year. So where does that leave Terrence Crawford? Jamel Charlo's leaving the division, and Tim Tszyu has just been elevated to the WBO champion. So we have to see how this unfolds. But Errol Spence officially is the junior middleweight WBC title challenger. And the reports is that Errol Spence had to drop from 154 all the way from 190 to 147, 53 pounds. I'm hard pressed to see Errol Spence be that irresponsible and to let himself to balloon up to that much weight. So let's see what's the next for Errol Spence and Terrence Bud Crawford. That's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue. And another thing, let me say this. If that's the case, Errol Spence should be fighting Erickson Lubin, Sebastian Fundora, or one of these guys, Brian Mendoza. Uh, if you're gonna put him in that rankings, because Terrence Crawford moves up, where do they rank him in the division? It's just sometimes these ranking systems make everything a mess. But that's all I got for y'all, man. Make sure you hit the like button. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. I'm gone. Peace.